Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Forum Daily West. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith does a swift cabinet shuffle. The Alberta regulator approves Northback Holdings' coal exploration project in the Crow's Nest Pass, leaving those in opposition with concerns. Plus, Canadians could face a postal strike as early as next week. Thanks so much for joining us. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has shuffled her cabinet today, days after the spring sitting of the legislature wrapped up with the passing of the controversial referendum bill. New ministers were sworn in by Lieutenant Governor Salma Lakhani in Calgary this afternoon.
Adriana LaGrange, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Primary and Preventative Health Services for the province of Alberta, so help me God.
The health portfolio is seeing significant change. Adriana LaGrange goes from health minister to minister of primary and preventative health services. Former jobs minister Matt Jones becomes minister of hospital and surgical health services. And former Indigenous relations minister Rick Wilson is now the minister of mental health and addictions. Rajan Sawhney moves from advanced education to minister of Indigenous relations. Miles McDougall takes over advanced education. Dan Williams is the new municipal Affairs Minister, taking over from Rick McIver, who is the new Speaker of the Legislature. Joseph Scow goes from Government House Leader to Minister of Jobs, Economy, Trade and Immigration. And Andrew Boychenko is the new Minister of Tourism and Sports. Two other changes. Demetrios Nicolaides will be adding childcare to his portfolio and become the Minister of Education and Childcare. And Jason Nixon will also see his title change to the Minister of Assisted Living and Social Services to reflect his oversight of assisted living Alberta. Not surprisingly, the NDP are reacting to the shuffle, calling it nothing more than rearranging the deck chairs on a sinking ship. In a statement, leader Naheed Nenshi says this reorganization will do nothing to tackle affordability, healthcare, and public safety and education. He says Smith isn't leading a government. She's clinging to a scandal-ridden crew that's out of touch and out of ideas. The Alberta Energy Regulator has approved a controversial coal exploration project on the eastern slopes of the Rocky Mountains. Northback Holdings Corporation's project at Grassy Mountain was rejected in 2021 over environmental concerns, but was revived 2 years later. The regulator says it determined approving the project is in the public interest and it won't have negative effects on water quality or wildlife, which many at public hearings argue will happen. It notes that accepting the need for this exploration program does not constitute approval of a coal mine. Former Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman has been outspoken for many years about the approval of this project.
You know, we're disappointed but not surprised. This is 3 applications, okay? Principally a drilling application. So we actually received a copy of a report on the quality of the coal that was done 4 years ago. And that report is not very good. It says the coal is substandard and not really very marketable. So that would explain why Northback wants to do 19 more drilling holes to confirm the quality of the coal. In principle, we are opposed to this. We have the Alberta government's own science reports. Those reports say every time there's been a coal mine, there has been pollution. I know the city of Lethbridge supplies potable water using Oldman River water for its 111,000 residents and 10 other communities. So it's about 130,000 people minimal relying on the Oldman River for potable water, and there is no known technology to remove selenium, excess selenium, from river water.
In other news, Canadians could be facing a postal strike as early as next week. After postal workers were ordered back to work last December, the federal government gave them until May 22nd to reach a new deal. And if one couldn't be reached, workers could return to the picket lines. Canada Post paused negotiations earlier this week. The union was scheduled to meet with Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu today. Small businesses and shipping firms are preparing for a disruption that could strain supply chains and freeze millions of parcels as well as billions of dollars in sales. And while we are talking about the post office, the Industrial Inquiry Commission has released its report on the labor dispute at Canada Post. The commission is recommending phasing out daily door-to-door letter mail delivery for individual addresses, while daily delivery to businesses should be maintained. The federal government asked for the inquiry after CUPW members were ordered back to work last year. The commission is also recommending that the moratoriums on rural post office closures and community mailbox conversions be lifted. Commissioner Warren Kaplan says his recommendations are based on his conclusion that there is a way to preserve Canada Post as a vital national institution, but he also says Canada Post is facing an existential crisis and is effectively insolvent. And without thoughtful, measured, staged, but immediate changes, its fiscal situation will continue to deteriorate. As we reported earlier this week, Prime Minister Mark Carney's government will not table a budget when Parliament returns in the coming weeks, which begs the question how the government can still function when it won't be presenting a budget this spring. Well, Canadian Press reporter David Baxter explains.
When Budget Day comes, a lot of focus is put on the debt, deficit, and government plans for the next fiscal year. One part that's more routine, but no less important, are spending plans to keep a host of government departments and programs up and running. This includes central agencies like the Defense Department and Canada Border Services Agency, plus Crown corporations like Canada Post and Via Rail. Without authorization from Parliament, this money doesn't flow. The fiscal year started on April 1st, but Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne said that the government won't table a full fiscal plan until the fall economic update. Former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau prorogued Parliament back in January, so MPs have not been around to approve government spending. So, how has the government continued running without a US-style shutdown? Cabinet's approved 2 special warrants worth a combined $73 billion to keep the government up and running until June 29th. Cabinet only has this power when the House isn't sitting. However, with MPs returning to Ottawa on May 26th, any future spending needs parliamentary approval. This is why former Parliamentary Budget Officer Kevin Page says he expects the government to table a spending bill before the summer break. Page says he doesn't expect MPs to be forced to vote on spending without at least some kind of economic update from the government. While Champagne said the government is working towards that fall economic statement, Page said he'd be surprised if the government didn't release some kind of debt and deficit projection before MPs are required to vote on continued spending. David Baxter, The Canadian Press.
Bloc Québécois leader Yves François Blanchet says the party plans to launch a legal challenge after losing the federal riding of Terrebonne by a single vote. A recount gave the seat back to the Liberals in the Montreal area riding, and Elections Canada says the result is final despite a misprint that led to one special ballot being returned to sender.
The judge has established that the Bloc Québécois would have lost the riding by one vote. The vote appeared in the hands of a citizen in a very clear fashion, and in that situation, the law requires the election to be done all over again in the riding of Terrebonne. This is what we expect. But since I don't know what's the name in English of Elections Canada, but since they cannot by themselves ask for the election to be repeated, we have to bring this situation in front of a judge in a court in order to do the election all over again.
An Ontario judge has dismissed the jury in the sexual assault trial of 5 former members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team. The decision was made after one of the jurors submitted a note to the judge saying some panel members felt defense lawyers for one of the accused were making fun of them. The trial in London will now continue with a judge alone, also known as a bench trial, rather than starting over with a new jury. Michael McLeod, Carter Hart, Alex Formenton, Dylan Dubé and Callan Foote have pleaded not guilty to sexual assault. Blaine Higgin has announced he will seek re-election as a candidate for the mayor of Lethbridge in the upcoming October 2025 municipal election. Higgin says he's committed to continuing to provide consistent, results-oriented leadership for Lethbridge through a commitment to fiscal responsibility, health and safety, and sustainability. Higgin was first elected to council in 2013 and became mayor in 2021. In sports, once again, the Toronto Maple Leafs are facing elimination from the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. They take on the Florida Panthers in Game 6 of their best of 7. At one point, the Leafs were up 2-0 in the series. They've lost 3 straight, including an embarrassing 6-1 loss on Wednesday. Councillor Klaus van der Veen has resigned as his position on Lethbridge County Council. He's the councillor for Division 6, which includes the hamlet of Shaughnessy. Van der Veen is moving out of the division, and under the Alberta Municipal Government Act, he will no longer be able to serve there. In a statement, Van der Veen says, quote, "It has been a true privilege to serve the residents of Lethbridge County since 2017. I am grateful for the chance to connect with and collaborate alongside so many outstanding individuals," end quote. With municipal elections coming up in October, a by-election will not be held for the vacancy. This week is National Nurses Week. The University of Lethbridge recognizes the important work these healthcare professionals do. The U of L's Health Simulation Center allows students to practice their nursing skills with mannequins that respond as a patient would. This year, the theme for National Nurses Week is the power of nurses to transform health, which highlights the evolution of this medical profession with technological advances. Health Simulation Center coordinator Lisa Johnson explains more about nursing preparation at the university.
When they get out practicing on those clinical units, they can take what they've learned in simulation to provide safe, competent patient care. We have our skills lab where students can come in and learn new skills that they're going to be using in the clinical setting. And then we have our high fidelity mannequin, our simulation portion of the program as well. So students are given the opportunity to spend 2 days as part of that clinical course in simulation, where we run them through 2 different scenarios. So the first scenario is diabetic ketoacidosis on day 1, and then on day 2, we run them through a heart failure scenario, and that heart failure scenario progresses to cardiac arrest. So students have the opportunity to work through those scenarios. So it gives them an idea of kind of what to expect in the clinical setting before they actually have to experience that independently.
The Simulation Center features acute care lab spaces, simulation, home care, client assessment, and simulation debriefing rooms. That mannequin looked freakishly real. Well, the 2025 Canadian College Baseball World Series is being hosted this week in Lethbridge. From Thursday through until May the 18th, the collegiate baseball teams from across Western Canada are battling at the Spitz Stadium. Josh Bergman, pitching coach with Prairie Baseball Academy, says the University of Calgary Dinos, Edmonton Collegiate Hawks, and Okanagan College Coyotes from BC are among the 8 teams which are participating.
The CCBC World Series tournament going on here. So we got all the 8 teams from our conference playing here and competing for our championship for our league. So we got 8 teams here in the city, 5 from British Columbia and 3 from here in Alberta. So we've got our team here with Prairie Baseball Academy, which we've been with our group since the beginning of September, and we competed through the fall and then throughout the winter, and then we had our spring schedule, and then obviously into our conference schedule here in the spring with our team, and had a really successful spring and had a tough loss last night, but we're looking to hopefully bounce bounce back here tonight and get back in the win column. Obviously today the weather's a little better. Last year the weather wasn't great. The competition in the league has gone up every single year. There's a lot of continuity within the league, and it's very competitive, so it creates for a really fun weekend of baseball for everybody.
The Canadian College World Series Championship game will be played Sunday at 4 o'clock at Spitz Stadium. Well, you know, summer is just around the corner when we start talking about the biggest outdoor show on earth. And this year's Calgary Stampede will be offering up 50 new items in July with a heaping of pickle flavors and something for those with a cast iron stomach. Keep an eye out for the Fruity Pebble Korean hot dogs, Spam Bao buns, Mopan worm poutine, and pork tongue. Sounds disgusting.
So far the reaction's been pretty good. Skittle Dog has been getting most of the attention today, so people are really excited about that. So I ordered some freeze-dried Skittles, so no gel pockets, got the flavor of the Skittle infused right into the dog, and then we just topped it up with the regular dogs. My biggest inspiration was just, you know, have something fun for the kids when they're in line with their parents, that they're not just getting a regular hot dog, something a little bit more fun, right?
You know, it kind of tastes like ham. It's got a great texture. It's really soft. As long as you don't think about it, it's really good. Tongue is maybe not exactly what I thought I'd be eating today, but it's good. I'm surprised. I'm not going to take another bite, but it's good.
It's a little spin on what we usually do. We just changed the filling this year. So it's kind of like a taste of Hawaii, Spam, pineapple, and garlic shrimp. Whenever we go to Hawaii, we always eat this stuff, and our kids are obsessed with the Spam.
That is your Forum Daily West report. I'm Jeanette Roche. Thanks so much for watching.